The lights dimmed inside the AT&T Center, and then it began. The roar of the crowd rose like a wave crashing over the arena. Two warriors were about to collide, and everyone inside knew this wouldn't be an ordinary fight. On one side stood Andre Berto, the former WBC and IBF welterweight champion, fast, explosive, and hungry for redemption. He had tasted the highs of glory, but was fighting to prove he still belonged among the elite. Across the ring, Jesus Soto Karass, the relentless Mexican warrior, carried the spirit of an underdog, but his heart was built for war. As Michael Buffer's booming voice introduced the fighters, cameras flashed, chants erupted, and you could almost feel the tension in the air. The bell rang. Round 1. Berto came out fast, his sharp right hand cracking like lightning. But Soto Karass was unfazed, walking him down with fearless aggression. They exchanged heavy leather early, each testing the other's chin, neither willing to give ground. The pace was vicious from the start. Every punch echoed through the arena. Every counter had danger written all over it. This wasn't just boxing, this was survival. The crowd sensed it. Something special was brewing. From the opening bell, it was clear this wasn't going to be a cautious chess match. It was going to be a war. Berto, sharp and explosive, tried to use his speed to control the pace. His right hand snapped out like a whip, landing clean on Soto Karass. But if Berto thought those shots would slow down the Mexican warrior, he was mistaken. Soto Karass absorbed them, shook his head, and kept marching forward. Round after round, Soto dug into the body, pounding away with brutal hooks and uppercuts. His game plan was simple: pressure, break, and destroy. And slowly, the cracks began to show. By the middle rounds, Berto was in trouble. His right shoulder seemed compromised, leaving him to fight with one good arm. Every jab, every left hook came from desperation, but Soto Karass smelled weakness. The crowd began to rally, half cheering for Berto's resilience, half for the relentless assault of Soto. The exchanges were savage. In close quarters, both men traded hellacious shots, Berto with explosive counters, Soto with grinding combinations. At times, the ring seemed too small for the war unfolding inside it. Blood, sweat, and willpower filled the air. Berto refused to quit, but every round seemed to tilt more in Soto's favor. The underdog was turning the fight into his kind of battle. Ugly, violent, and unforgiving. The storm was building. Something was coming. By round 7, the fight had become an epic test of endurance. Andre Berto, wounded but unbroken, continued to fire back. But with each passing round, his punches lacked the same snap. The injury to his right arm was undeniable. He was essentially fighting half a war with half a weapon. Soto Karass, however, thrived in the chaos. He pressed forward like a man possessed, landing body shots that thudded like hammers against steel. The swelling around Berto's eye began to tell a cruel story, one of pain, punishment, and relentless pressure. The crowd roared with every exchange. Whenever Berto landed a crisp hook, hope flickered. Whenever Soto responded with a barrage, that hope dimmed. Then, in the middle rounds, a stunning moment shifted everything. Soto Karass caught Berto with a sharp counter right hand that buckled the former champion's legs. The arena gasped. Berto staggered, but somehow refused to fall, clenching his fists and swinging back with pure instinct. The exchanges grew more desperate. Soto sensed the finish, while Berto dug into reserves of heart few fighters possess. Every second of the fight felt like a battle for survival. By the end of round 9, fans rose to their feet. They weren't just watching a fight, they were watching a war of wills. Round after round, the punishment continued. Soto Karass kept pounding away, his fists fueled by the chants of the crowd. His strategy was relentless: suffocate Berto, drown him under pressure, make him fold. But Andre Berto refused to break. He stood tall against the storm, even as his body screamed for relief. Fighting almost entirely with his left hand, he threw hooks, jabs, anything he could muster to hold back the tide. His courage was undeniable, his resilience remarkable. By the championship rounds, both men were exhausted. Sweat poured, faces swollen, yet neither would retreat. The crowd, sensing history, roared louder with each exchange. It was a brutal spectacle, one that captured everything boxing is meant to be: skill, pain, willpower, and pride. Then came round 11. Berto somehow launched a furious rally. He landed crisp shots that stunned Soto, and for a brief moment, the fight seemed to shift. The crowd erupted, urging him forward, but Soto Karass would not be denied. He absorbed the punishment, regrouped, and fired back with his own savage combinations. The ring shook with violence. Heading into the 12th, the stage was set for a dramatic conclusion. One fighter, wounded but defiant, the other, relentless and surging. The war had reached its final act, the 12th and final round. The arena was electric. Fans stood, shouting, knowing they were witnessing something unforgettable. Berto, battered and bloodied, came out with one last burst of courage. He tried to summon the champion within, firing his left hand with everything he had left. But Soto Karass, smelling victory, unleashed a storm. He targeted the body, ripping hooks, then came upstairs with brutal combinations. Midway through the round, disaster struck. A crushing right hand from Soto Karass landed flush. Berto's legs buckled. The crowd gasped as he stumbled backward. Soto swarmed, throwing punches in bunches. Then, another left hook crashed against Berto's chin and down he went. The referee waved it off. It was over. Jesus Soto Karass had done it. Against all odds, he had stopped the former world champion in the 12th round. The underdog had risen. The warrior had triumphed. As Soto raised his hands in victory, the crowd roared in approval. Berto, battered but unbroken in spirit, had given everything. It was more than a fight. It was a war. A night where courage met relentlessness. A night where Jesus Soto Karass etched his name into boxing history with a dramatic knockout victory.